sure most of you know already who I am, but I will also start with a little bit introduction about myself for those of you who do not know. So my name is Anisha, and I am currently working at UNDP in India as the Youth Community Engagement Assistant. I will also be facilitating today's session of Ask Me Anything with April Cummings, who is also a member who is also working at Youth Collab currently. So, yes, so for those of you who do not know how the session works, so it's going to be Ask Me Anything. So you can just put your questions in the chat box if you want to ask anything about communication, about social media engagement, about youth empowerment, and anything else that you have in mind. So feel free to drop the questions in the chat box. And then we will be asking those questions to April, who will be sharing her insights with us. So yes, that's how the session will go on. And I'm sure some of you also attended our last Ask Me Anything session, which we did with Sissy. If you remember, on partnerships, that was also a very, very fun and engaging session. So I'm sure today's session will also be very, very fun, exciting, and just a normal like sit down conversation between all of us. So, for those of you, I'm sure while all of you know who April is, but I will also give a short introduction about April. So, April works with Youth Collab, an initiative that is co led by UNDP and City Foundation as a digital communications and community outreach specialist. She manages the project's digital communication platform with a growing number of over 200,000 followers online, and she also supports young social entrepreneurs in Asia Pacific by amplifying their journey and positive impact through her work. Beyond her professional capacity, she is also involved with the global and national communications campaigns that advocate for women's representation, body positivity, racism, and discrimination. April holds a Bachelor of Arts in Language and Cultural with a minor in French from a university in Thailand. So, yes, a virtual round of applause for welcoming April to today's Ask Me Anything session. So, yeah, feel free to react with the clapping emoji, all of you. Yes. So, let's start with today's session by asking all of you that on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to ask April some very interesting questions today? So, feel free to react or put it in the chat box. Okay. I'm losing count of how many zeros are there in the chat box. But I think the basic consensus is that all of us are very, very excited. Not really. So I cannot pronounce whatever number I think Anahita put in the chat box, or yeah, before that as well. But yes, I can see there is a lot of excitement. And of course, so yes, so I think meanwhile, like since we have a lot of other participants also joining in, so I will give all of you some time to figure out what questions you want to ask April. And yes, whenever you are ready with your questions, just put it in the chat box. And meanwhile, I will ask the first question. So yeah, just to get the session started. So for starters, April, what I personally want to know about you was that, so who is your biggest role model who inspired you to enter this field of digital communication and social media? So along those lines, so did you have a role model that you wanted to follow while coming into this line? So yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Anisha. Thank you so much for such a great introduction and also opening up the floor for the first question. And I think that that is a really great question, especially more specific to who's my role model when it comes to social media and communication, because I think that I never really had a chance to talk about that much. But moving back a little bit on who's my role model in general, um, I would say there's two people who are my role models. The first person is Rihanna. And the reason is because I grew up listening to a lot of her music, and I have been inspired so much about the way that she has expressed her creativity through her work, through her music. And most importantly, I think watching her grow throughout the year, now she is a successful entrepreneur and also philanthropist. So I think that in terms of a public figure and a an artist or a Hollywood movie star, I think that she is very well rounded because she's also successful in so many ways. And in a way, she also influences and is a role model for many young women and girls around the world to, become independent and fight for what you want. So I really admire her for those traits. And the second role model that I follow strongly is my mother, because growing up, I always heard about all her stories, how she struggled um, at a very young age, and all the works that she has done to survive and try to feed the family. And I feel like hearing all those stories, such a very young age, and hearing that she has struggled, but she has survived and she has tried her best to provide a quality life for all her children and her family. I think that really inspired me to never give up. And I feel like I built resilience from hearing all of her stories, and that has made me become always tell myself like not to be a quitter and always try my hardest to do something and never give up. Although I do get scared along the way, of course, but I just feel like if my mother could do this, I like if she was in my position, she will definitely be able to do this. And now moving on to the second question. So moving on more on communication, who's my role model? I think I looking back, I think I originally got involved in communication area at a very, very young age.